Welcome to Discover Indie Film. I'm Jeff Howard, and I've got John Schlag with me on Zoom. Hey, John.
How you doing?
I'm doing well, and it's good to see you. Uh,
Likewise.
we got to meet at the Sherman Oaks Film Festival quite recently, actually. This is only, I think, the second weekend. Well, no, this is the second week since the festival. And you were at the Sherman Oaks Film Festival because your film Painstaking was an official selection as a dance film, and you took home the Grand Jury Award for Best Short Film Dance. So, bravo! I've just watched it again this morning and have so much to ask you about because I find it so. It's just extremely compelling. It's more than just beautiful. I really do feel it's telling a story, and then I do greatly appreciate what you wrote with your submission, which is we invite viewers to see what they will and feel what they will, which is very generous for an artist to have that attitude towards their work. But boy, I got some ideas of what I'm thinking and feeling. But we can save that for later.
Sure.
First, I assume the film is still on the festival circuit, so people can't check it out yet.
Correct. It is nearing the end of its festival run. We're still waiting to hear from a couple of festivals. But anyway, thanks for a terrific introduction. Thanks for running a wonderful film festival. I had a great time there. I thought the moderators did great jobs. I thought the way the whole ship was run was really tight.
Thank you, and thank you for being the kind of filmmaker who comes to the festival and shows a deep interest in film and the work of your peers because some people come and they go to their screening and they leave and that's fine. But you came and I believe you were at the gala, and then I think I saw you every day at the theater checking out films, and I just think that's so great. I honestly I don't do it, but I always joke that the audience award that we're supposed to give out should go to the filmmaker who's in the audience the most.
Who shows up the most? Yeah, good point. Because as my sometimes co-writer, almost always co-producer and wife, Jennifer Gennari, and I have a culture of participation. If you throw us a party, we're not going to turn our noses up and be too cool for school. You throw us a party, and we're going to come and we're going to try and meet as many people as we can. And that goes for the screenings as well. Yes, I've seen a bunch of filmmakers who go to their own screening and then leave. When with our kids, we have, four daughters between the two of us. And, as a parent, you impress on the kids, hey, look, you need to go to support the other people on your team. Don't just, do your bit and walk out. So this is really, practicing what we preach.
Excellent, excellent. And now I'll do the humble brag thing and you happen to support other filmmakers in a film festival where every film is good because we have we joke that we're the festival that gives a crap and that every film in our festival is good. And I admit a lot of filmmakers will come to us and at that opening night gala will say I'll say, yeah, every film is in this festival is great, and they look at me and I know they've been to festivals that they've gone to where you go to even in one block of shorts, you have something good, something bad, something okay, something wonderful, something lesser all of a sudden. And they go home thinking, I don't even know if I should be proud I was in that.
There are 14,000 plus film festivals girdling planet Earth of every shape, size, and description. You go on filmfreeway.com and start searching, and you find everything. But yeah, I concur. Hats off, because I thought the programming at Sherman Oaks was terrific.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right. Well, enough about Sherman Oaks Film Festival and whatnot. Let's talk about you because Painstaking is a very accomplished and sophisticated film in my opinion, and I'm curious what got you there. So, when did you first get interested in the creative arts? Did it strike you as a young person, or did it come over school? Sometimes I always joke with people that I've met quite a few people who are like, "Well, my high school crush was in the drama club, so I just had to join too."
Yeah. No, I guess it was, from the very beginning, there were two things going on for me. One was music. You grow up Catholic, and you're going to do, as you know, male presenting, you're going to do one of two things. One is become an altar boy, which in the short term is a lot more lucrative, or you join the choir. And in this case, I wisely joined the choir. The choir director taught us to read music, taught us to sing, taught us to get along with each other and listen to each other. Then he started teaching us group piano lessons and then semi-private and then went to private lessons. He was also the church organist, so I trained as a church organist and was one for 4 years as a teenager. And everybody in high school, when I said I'm going to major in electrical engineering in college, they looked at me like they had no idea what I was talking about. Like an engineer is someone who drives a train and wears a funny hat, right? Um, so I decided not to sort of squeeze blood from the music stone as a career, because even at that age, I was seeing the lives of people who did that. And while they very much enjoyed their music, it's a tough life. So I chose to keep music on the side. And then, did the engineering thing, but got th through a little bit of a circuitous path I won't enumerate, got into doing computer graphics, which was, really great fun. I loved that. I started doing that in grad school at Carnegie Mellon in Pittsburgh, and then moved to the NYIT, New York Institute of Technology Computer Graphics Lab on Long Island. NYIT is, basically a trade school, but had a preeminent computer graphics lab at the time, founded by the people who went to form Lucasfilm Computer Graphics, which then became Pixar, and the rest of that story is history, which is great. So let's see, got into using computer graphics for visual effects, and then started at Industrial Light and Magic ILM for Terminator 2, did Death Becomes Her, Jurassic Park, Forrest Gump, a couple of Star Trek films thrown in there. Years later, worked on the Matrix sequels, Reloaded and Revolutions, Watchmen, and a bunch of other things. And then, getting back to the crux of your question, when you work in visual effects, it's glitzy, it's fun. You can, people get to see what you do. Um, but you are a very small cog in a very large machine. And I became interested in what makes a good story. My wife, Jennifer Gennari, is a children's book author. And so around our house, when I started studying screenwriting, it just became all story all the time. So, uh, broadly again, went from, music to graphics to visual effects and then to screenwriting. But I decided, I would Uh, I wrote a series of three screenplays, and then what do you do as a wannabe screenwriter? You send them out. Maybe you try and compete, but uh, it's kind of like waiting by the phone. And at this point, my wife's looking at me like, she writes out a manuscript for a new novel, sends it to her agent. Maybe that goes to publishers. They sit on it for a long time. My wife looks at me like, well, welcome to my life. So that's when I decided, this is around 2020, 2021. After a couple of years of teaching myself screenwriting, what I really want to be is a filmmaker. I want to make films from end to end and learn the entire process. And that has to start, of course, with what makes a good story.
And really, it sounds like the entire. I mean, I'm going to call you a balanced person in that you have the technical and the creative in a way. It's funny. I come from a family of engineers, so I always I love the description of engineering as problem solving, right? Engineering is actually looking at problems and solving them, and that's creative, actually.
Yes.
But it does seem like you took that side of yourself and you slowly kept adding more creative elements to it, right?
That's
The
a good
computer
way to put it,
you
I
went
think.
right,
Yeah.
you went into the CGI thing, which is brilliant and certainly more creative than working in the defense industry as an engineer. But yeah, it probably still wasn't quite as rewarding as an because even though you are doing something artistic, you're always serving someone else's vision, I assume.
In the industry, yeah. And I don't know. Also, though, I don't diss anybody for what they do for a living. Working in entertainment, oftentimes some people discount us, but the way I look at it is whoever you are, butcher, baker, candlestick maker, whether you're an EMT, uh, when you come home at the end of a hard day, chances are you just want to be entertained. And there is a market for this. It is a free market, and I am enjoying participating in it.
Yeah, yeah. And I was just trying to get to the idea that you have over time just allowed yourself more and more personal creative space to express yourself and now have reached the point and honestly when you talk about screenwriting and whatnot, I often, you know, I'll often use the analogy that a screenplay is a schematic. It's like the blueprint, and then you take that and you build the home or you design whatever the schematic was for. So it all comes together. Yeah, in your story, it all comes together for me pretty clearly. And how many films have you made so far since you devoted yourself to that?
Oh, 6 or 7, depending on how you count. Um, Last year, we made 2 films, one of which was OVAX, which is a 22-minute bioscience fiction film, basically about women taking over the world. And then Painstaking was, I like to make one dance film a year in addition to our usual sort of fiction work. And last year, because we were sort of up against the wall of our season in Vermont when we leave again for California, I had to fit in something that was very easy to bring together. And Painstaking has one cast member, one wonderful dancer, Sadie McKinnon of the Burlington, Vermont area, the choreographer, Chach Prager, who's a former professional dancer with several national ballet companies. And we've worked several times with Patricia Julian, who is a professor of jazz harmony at UVM, University of Vermont. And this we filmed it in half a day or 3/4 of a day in a local access TV studio, dressed out as a blue screen, as a blue box, basically. And so, yeah, I had to do something last year, which was pretty simple to pull together. This
Do you want to
doesn't
share
have,
your interest in dance? Because I think before we started recording,
sure.
so beside you were also a dance enthusiast.
Yes, when I was, let's see, I guess it goes, senior year of undergrad school, I had done a bunch of community theater, mainly in the pit, directing, being in the band, directing, or music director or whatever. And then senior year, a friend of mine whom I'd met through theater and in the dorms, he had his chance to direct a senior project, and he was doing Company by Stephen Sondheim, and he had somebody drop out, and he came to me and said he just pleaded his case and said, please, 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 I know you're trying to keep your senior year free of all this extra stuff, extracurriculars, and not bomb out in your senior year, but I really, really need your help. And so I entered the cast and subbed in for him to get him through that show. And as part of that, there was a dance solo which he choreographed, which featured myself and a female cast member who doubled as a dancer also. And that really whet my appetite. And so in the fall, when I got to Carnegie Mellon for grad school, I just really felt like something was lacking. I did nothing basically but study and play a little volleyball fall semester because the course load was so heavy. But in the spring, I thought I really need to find something here. There was a flyer on the wall for a ballet class one night a week in a gymnasium at Pitt. University of Pittsburgh is right down the street from Carnegie Mellon. And I walked out of the first class of that just feeling like I'm alive again. And so I followed the dance company that the teacher was part of, and he said, "Oh, we have this summer intensive. So I signed up for that and then continued through another like year or year and a half or so, taking ballet, modern, a little bit of jazz at basically every place I could find to study. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania is not a huge dance mecca, um, but there are things going on, and if you find them, you can learn.
Yeah, and I imagine not being in a dance mecca might make it easier to casually get into it.
If
Like
you are,
there's not like you're
yeah,
not showing up and it's deep competition of all these people who want to end up on Broadway.
right. New York, LA, Chicago, even other major smaller cities tend to be intense. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, if you are even you're remotely male presenting, you basically get grabbed by the collar and they, parachute you into classes. Um, I loved it for its, on its own right. And I got good enough to be taking company class with a couple of modern companies there, but never performed really. So, that sat for years, didn't do much about it. Years later, I started attending performances of Smuin Contemporary Ballet in San Francisco, started going to their yearly round of performances, and then joined a group called Friends of Smuin. It's kind of like Friends of the Library. There's a Friends of for many organizations, like an auxiliary. Was part of that for 2 years and then joined the board. And I think I'm in year 5 or 6 as a board member. And so I hear a lot about the ballet world and the joys of it and the difficulties of it.
I am openly envious that you got to discover dance at that age because I I wish I had. And I discovered a love for dance probably somewhere around near creeping up on 40 because I happened socially to befriend a choreographer who started inviting me to performances around Los Angeles. And I just love watching dance and I joke I ended up and then that's the reason why we added a dance category to our festivals just because I love dance film personally. So as the festival runner, I'm
Well,
like,
thanks
let's see if
for
we can get
that.
some dance films in here.
Great.
And wonderfully we did. And then one of those filmmakers started a dance film festival in the UK, and she asked me to be on her jury. And I joked with her once. She said, I want to put you in something. I'm like, I am the least graceful person alive. I cannot dance to save my life. My wife, if I attempt to dance, my wife goes the other side of the room. She has to, she has to
Oh,
get
that's too
to
bad.
save. She doesn't want to be in the same zip code as I am if I'm attempting to dance. I said the only place I'm graceful is the tennis court, and her response was, "Ooh, I'll choreograph some tennis into something." And I thought, okay, well, I'm glad you're in the UK. But
Yeah,
anyway, I am
loving a
jealous.
thing
I'm
just,
jealous that dance became a part of your life, but I'm so happy. And so then, with that enthusiasm, you decided to marry your two interests and do at least one dance film a year.
yes. And, while I started on it, I was in early 20s at the time. Many who are professional dancers, they start at age 3 or 4 or 5, and their bones literally grow into the dance, especially for young women with point shoes. Um, but yes, I all along had enjoyed seeing dance films whenever I would catch them somewhere. Um, a dance film typically is on the short to very short side, and so it's just easier to put together in some ways. Also, for painstaking in particular, the editing that was so much easier than editing a fiction film because you drop in the music and it's basically a music video and you're done. There's no dialogue editing and background room tone and things like that. Um, so editing the video over top of the audio was pretty straightforward. Um, there were some things that made it interesting, and we did actually win the Best Editing Award from the Austin Micro Film Festival. It features only films under 6 or 7 minutes, I forgot, and had a long lineup of them. So yeah, it's been great fun to say, okay, in addition to where we're going with storytelling and fiction, and now this past summer we've filmed our first documentary. Let's make one dance film a year just to marinate in the beauty of this art form.
Right, right. And all right, well, so now I'll ask them. I mean, you brought up the score and everything. Should I assume that you have the score written in advance so the dancer can perform to it, or does it come later?
Each of our films has been different. In this case, I went back, Patricia Julian, the composer I mentioned from UVM. I went to her for this and just asked, "Hey, Patricia, do you have some things sort of lying around on your intellectual garage floor? Ideas that you haven't really made much of. Here's the basics of the piece. It's in three sections. Each one's about a minute long. Ended up being 4.5 minutes altogether because it grew a little bit, but not too much. She sent me version one. We went back and forth a couple of times, and by version three, like within a week, I had the score. So in this case, the concept came first, then the score. I sent the score to Chach Preger, with whom I'd worked before, and engaged him as their choreographer. And then together we recruited Sadie, with whom I'd worked before also on a short film called Gravity a couple of years ago. And so, yeah, it was concept first, then score, then choreography, which we rehearsed with Sadie. Filming, I brought Dylan Tanner, our DP, with whom we'd also worked a couple of times before on MT, Nestor, and others. Brought Dylan in and we filmed it at the Media Factory in downtown Burlington, Vermont, which is it's a member of the Vermont Access Network. It's, basically your local cable TV station. And they loan out equipment for free if you're a member. And they have a small studio. So filmed it. And then I went into post-production and, the music was done, although I think Patricia and I went back and forth. She's extremely flexible to work with to maybe trim a little bit or add a little bit more here or there or make things come down right on the beat, which is important for a dance film. And then Brandon St. Cyr, who's a Vermont area visual effects guru and director in his own right, he and I spent 3 months doing because it's filmed blue screen. Every clip, and there are 79 or 81 of them. Every clip in the film is a visual effects clip. We spent months rendering and designing and rendering the whole thing out. Brandon's responsible for the overall look and sort of CG architecture of the piece, and then I did the rendering myself.
I mean, honestly, at the risk of being a bit lofty, but that's sort of my brand. In a way, in this film, those visual effects you're describing are basically a second dancer
Kind
because
of.
she is truly your dancer is interacting with the effects as if like they are in a way the dance partner in this film.
Absolutely, yes. And there is, well, this now gets into the story. It's a very
Yeah, yeah, the
implicit
story, which
story,
which
but there
also I
is a story
noted
there.
from your explanation that you had the basically the three acts in mind, the three phases of sorts, and so you knew that your performer would be changing their costuming, I guess, in each piece, and then you also had the music change in each piece, and uh,
Sure,
and
yeah, I'm
and
happy to
thus yeah.
take
So
it from
so
there
feel
now.
feel free to elaborate on that because obviously to me watching it, I almost feel like it's almost like a life story of how one goes through life with different emotional states and perspectives as when you're younger and full of wonder and then you start to learn that the world's a little dangerous and then so I read a lot into this film because it invites me to, I guess.
Exactly. And that's where, for example, when we made OVAX, with a fiction film, you want to make sure you're bringing the audience along, and things are in some cases you err to the side of being explicit rather than implicit. I mean, with story points, I'm not talking about, human bodies or anything. Um, when it came to painstaking, Jennifer and I had worked out a, basic concept for the thing. And when it came to posting, we decided to reel back just more and more. Originally, the concept was that there would be these whispered voices, telling this young woman, how to walk, how to talk, how to act, how to be, which frankly are the messages that young women tend to hear, especially from men. But we ripped all that out and just let the piece sort of speak visually. The concept is there, it's visible, but to let people, frankly, to project what they're thinking and feeling. And we've had a variety of reactions, which I think is great. To me, projecting is the essence of art. I'd go far enough to say that if you can't project on it, it's not art.
I
When you,
agree.
yeah, so I like the ground when I view art, still art. I love the area which is neither fully representational nor fully abstract. I like things that are a bit toward the abstract side, but which have some kind of elements that grab you and pique your curiosity. So yes, that's exactly what we wanted to do. And getting back to what you said about the environment, this slowly orbiting, accelerating world of glass panes around the dancer, it's critical that she interacts with them. Otherwise, it's just decoration. And so Brandon and I worked out, labored quite mightily over how those interactions would work. I had some ideas at the beginning, and I had done a really basic test of what we ended up calling Pain World, um, to just to show the dancer and choreographer this is the kind of world you're going to be in, and to give them some idea. And then completely put that aside, and Brandon rebuilt it from scratch.
And I have to admit, I admire the title too, and that
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
There's a
everyone loves a
double
little bit of
entendre, of course.
a
Yeah.
slight pun of sorts. But
Yes.
did you first visualize the panes around her, sort of creating that environment, almost like, a globe around her, a sphere of sorts? Did that come first and then the title, or?
Yes, it did. I had, I don't know where I got that, spark of visual inspiration, but I did a really quick test just in Adobe After Effects, that something I could do in a couple hours to show the dancer and choreographer, Sadie and Chach, something that they could sort of mentally grab onto and wrap their heads around. And you mentioned, yes, it is in three parts. It is intended to show, again, kind of artistically and vaguely, childhood, adolescence, and young adulthood, and sort of struggling with the mixed messages a young woman hears a lot. So, of the three sections, um, hair is different, makeup is different, costume is different, the choreography changes, the music is different. And then when it came to post, Brandon and I, Pain World changes slightly from section one to two to three. And even in the edit, if you notice in section one, the takes are longer. Section two, they get a bit shorter and pick up speed. And in section three, they become very tight, quick edits.
And I could certainly see where you would get an editing award because also at transitions, I admit I'm sure you've been praised for this before. I love that the transitions aren't in like it'll go back and forth between phases briefly. Like when there's a transition, the thing you notice most, of course, is the costuming, but you'll see it'll go to the next costume and then back to the previous, and then it'll flip back and forth a little, which I thought, but it's very subtle and almost subliminal, I think.
There are some quick cuts going from section one to two, and the inspiration for that was Patricia's music. The two things that came together were she put some very sharp hits in the music at that point, where we're moving into section two, and the music, the tone, the feeling is changing. And because we had one continuous piece of choreography throughout the whole thing, we did section one, but typically when you're directing, you want overlap, right? So we did section one into section two and let that go for a bit and then say cut. And when we began filming section two, we backed up a little bit into the end of section one and thought, okay, let's pick it up from there. And the whole time, Chach was just playing the music on his cell phone for Sadie to dance to.
Wow, wow, beautiful. And yeah, and I have to admit, I'll probably watch it again because I'm aware of the changes in Payne's world or Payne world. Um, but it's almost an unconscious transition because it's more the feeling changes and in your mind I couldn't even say like what was different, but I could feel it, which that is some genuinely you used an excellent word for it that I can't remember, but it's
Tone,
intuitive.
perhaps.
Hmm?
Tone, perhaps.
Tone, yeah,
Yeah.
and just that it's really you're changing the emotional tone and the way that we unconsciously interpret it in a way.
Yes, that was intentional. And it was intended to be subtle.
Exactly,
So,
yeah, because if you'd had them be like go from a yellow tone to a red to a blue, that would be like over the top and everyone would know, oh, new phase.
right. Mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, we chose not to make it quite that explicit or jarring. This is a thing I learned from the visual effects world, which is there are times when, if we screw something up, if the shadows aren't matching where the feet make contact with the floor or whatever. I was dealing with this in compositing, clips for Jurassic Park. Um, the audience may not see it, but they will feel it. They will know that there's something wrong. And so that's why you want to sweat those details. Likewise, when you might want the audience to feel something, and of course, the music is key in well, basically manipulating people's emotions. There are many other things, color cues, and oh, I should give a shout out too because Sadie and I went back and forth in email a few times talking about costume and makeup, and we agreed nothing says little girl like pigtails, so that's section one. And she brought her own makeup kit and two or three options for each of the sections, and did her own hair, makeup, and costume, basically. So that took a huge load off of me and meant that we could actually film this thing in a day.
In a day and wardrobe department was handled and everything fit.
It's her clothing.
And she gave you options, which is so wonderful as a director.
Yes, although I'm still kind of kicking myself for at least one of the choices I made. Filming against blue screen, you not only have to avoid blue, you should avoid black as well.
Oh, understood.
Yeah,
Understood.
a lot of work went into fixing that up.
Yeah. So now the obvious question, and I bet this was probably asked at the theater, but you said that principal photography was done in part of a day, and then the post-production process, including VFX, which of course is your specialty of sorts, was that just amazingly how it was just months and months?
It was 3 months, I think. We filmed it, and this is how close to the wire we were, and why I chose this project rather than others, which were grander. We filmed it on the last day before we left town. We spend our summers in Vermont. My wife's parents and sister and brother-in-law are there, so we have a lot of family around there in Vermont. And we come to California, where we used to live full time for the winters. Um, so we filmed it in one day, the last day before we left town. I leave town with an SDD in a disk drive full of bits and bytes and a laptop and audio, and you just started editing there. It was really quite um, it Some people would say tedious, but I don't know. I just loved it because I knew how beautiful this thing could be. So I began by pulling blue screen extractions myself, just temporary ones, and doing, it's called garbage matting. There are times when you can see off the set. There are times when you can see our gaffer coming into the frame, waving a light around. In section 3, you can see there's moving light on the dancer's face, which is coming from a gaffer holding a light and, just waving it up and down. So garbage matting all that. So I had all of our clips against black. And then I edited the film that way. And once I had a cut all but locked, then I gave the EDL, edit decision list, basically a spreadsheet of numbers saying in points and out points for every clip relative to the original piece of material from the camera that it comes from. Brandon and I went over that clip by clip, and I started doing rotoscoping, blue screen extractions, handed it over to Brandon to, put Pain World together, and then he would send it back to me for final rendering. So that process took us 3 months. Yeah, for a 4.5 minute dance film, I had to upgrade my laptop. The old one just sort of went and, refused to render. So yeah, but not
It's
sorry.
actually, I mean, I anecdotally, I assume that that's actually 3 months is actually pretty quick, I think, for the amount of work that went into it. Clearly, it's partially the skill level of yourself and Brendan, but
Brandon, yeah,
Brandon,
Brandon St.
but
Cyr,
uh,
Vermont.
but
Uh,
uh, but yeah, that's actually pretty efficient because Lord knows, we've had 5 minute films that people share took of computer animation that yeah, it was sometimes it can be 2 years.
oh, computer animation is different. If
Yeah,
your characters and everything is CG, that can take a really long time. Yeah,
yeah.
I've never worked on an all animated film, but certainly we had to animate all those dinosaurs for Jurassic Park. So yes, it can take a very long time. That being said, this would have taken maybe a month or a month and a half instead of 3 months had I uh, gotten my act together and remembered what I learned about blue screen and green screen filming from ILM and other visual effects facilities. And if I'd, well, there are other technical aspects about it that looking back on could have been done better, but ended up in uh, more work on my part. So, as director and, conceiver of this thing, I just thought, all right, this thing's going to get done. You made this bed, now lie in it, and ended up doing a bunch of rotoscoping and other, low-level VFX work. So Brandon could do the interesting design part of it.
I want to joke that it fell into the old trope of we'll fix it in post. So you just gave yourself more work in post, but you were able to fix anything that you needed to, and
Yes,
it just takes
including,
time.
yes, absolutely. That is it. It wasn't just sort of fixed in post. The whole world that she's dancing in was designed in
Yeah,
post.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, and it's beautiful and it's just such a nice combination of it's I mean really it's like in live performance, people throw around the term multimedia performance, and it really is a multimedia performance.
Yeah, there's nothing projected on it. There's no other
Yeah.
video other than the dancer, which
Yeah.
is
But
another
the
thing
end
that we
result, the end
reeled back
result
on.
really is a multimedia experience where someone's experiencing. I think that's another thing I love so much about it is is the choreography feels very I'm searching for the adjective, like whether I want to say it's human or natural. There's something very organic about your dancer's performance. And then of course it's the least organic environment that that dancer is in. So it's such a even that's a beautiful contrast.
Thanks. Yeah, that's due to Chach and Sadie doing their very professional things. Um, there is one thing in particular about that, I guess, is that we had this choreography, which we had one rehearsal for. It was actually being choreographed during the rehearsal at Spotlight, Vermont, dance studio in Burlington. When we got to the studio on the day, I said to Sadie, "Hey, look, we're under rehearsed on this, no problem. You won't get any grief from me if rather than doing this in tiny little pieces and having to get them all exactly just right as you would do for a dialogue-driven film. If you're dancing and you're not sure, lose track of what comes next from the choreography or whatever, just keep dancing." And so our takes were different. The choreography was different from take to take. And that's what made it especially, let's say, interesting, challenging, really, to put together in the edit, was to get um, a coherent single piece of choreography, which um, the movements, the movement vocabulary was the same, was what Chach choreographed, but maybe not in the exact same order.
And honestly, that's I'm gonna call that very generous because Lord knows you had a focus on artistic expression there, and you let your dancer Sadie do artistic expression, knowing that you were giving yourself more, right? Because if you were thinking solely about the VFX work, you would have said, no, it's got to be so perfectly matched that we have an easier job afterwards. But instead, you embrace that dance is a live art and encourage some expression on behalf of your dancer, and then you made it work after the fact.
Great. Yeah, thanks for pointing it out that way. Frankly, I wasn't thinking of it myself, really, even in those terms. But right, when you have access to the dancer and choreographer and the DP and a grip and a gaffer to help us, there were a couple of people from Media Factory, Jordan and Coleman, who helped us. When you have access to those people, you want to get the best you can from them and capture as much as you can and post, let's fix it in post or however you want to phrase it. It is true that post is enormously flexible. You can basically remake the whole thing if you want. And yes, that came from my time in the VFX world. I would rather let the dancer sort of run and see what comes.
I guess I'm silly. I might be silly, but I'm pointing out that if you were a director who had the concept, who wasn't a V, didn't have your background, if you were paying completely for all the VFX and post with whether it was a friend or an associate, you had a luxury here, I guess, that you weren't adding more work to post and to the effects portion was doable for you. Whereas for some
It
people, that's the most
was,
challenging part
yeah.
of filmmaking, right?
Yeah, I'm carrying around a lot in my head,
Yeah.
and
But that is
probably
your art. That's
out.
that's that that has be that's your palette.
Yes, and Brandon was incredibly flexible in going, back and forth on the concept too, and changing. When you see Sadie interacting with some of those glass panes, that's all Brandon's animation work. Um, so yeah, again, it's trying to get the best of both worlds to get
Yeah.
a wonderful live performance and then interacting with a visually stunning and interesting environment.
Yeah, really, it really is a genuine. I mean, film, everyone talks about how film is the most collaborative of arts. And in this case, by bringing in dance too, you brought many artists, including yourself, together, and this is a genuine collaboration at every level.
Absolutely. Yeah, like I said, it started with concept and went from there to scoring with Patricia, which was terrific. I had not used that particular pipeline before, but we had worked with Patricia the year prior on a dance film called Gravity, which was made on a very short schedule. It was a challenge film. It was made for Mothership VT, Mothership Vermont Monthly Film Festival, run by our DP, Dylan Tanner, in downtown Burlington. And there is each month a prompt. and then you make a film during that month. And so Gravity was mainly 3 weeks of cogitation and then 1 week of sort of mad filming and post-production. But that's where we met Sadie and brought her back the following year because she had the right sort of darker gravitas for this. And she just nailed it. It was terrific.
Excellent, wonderful. And I assume it sounds like you had a very good festival run with it.
Mixed, really. It is hard. Not everybody loves dance films the way you and I do. There are quite a few, half a dozen to a dozen dance film festivals out there, including the big three, I guess, are New York, San Francisco, and LA. Dance Camera West, Dance on Film, I think it's called, and the San Francisco Dance Film Festival. And, they did not see what we hoped they would see in this film. On the other hand, it has just lit up. You have to basically love the medium. And people, you, thanks very much, and others have just lit up when they've seen this film. So it's had what I would call a good run, but not a great one.
Right. And interestingly, so so in other words, pure dance festivals were a little less welcoming, possibly because of the reliance on technology or the utilization of it. Is
You're
it just
never
that that's an
gonna
aesthetic
know.
that they're
Yeah.
not embracing anymore, or
Well,
they're
we got one
hesitant?
comment mainly. I mean, you run again a real tight ship as a film festival. Most film festivals, you're never going to know why they
Yeah.
rejected you, or for that matter, why they accepted you, and you can't take it personally. You can mope for about 5 to 10 seconds and then move on to whatever you're working on for this year. So, in terms of what people have seen in it, sometimes a festival will say, "Oh, hey, once the smoke clears from us running this whole thing, which, you folks are now recovering nicely from the whirlwind of running Sherman Oaks Film Festival, right? Some festivals will tell you, "Oh, okay, we'll send you some of our reviewers' comments." And I always ask for that if they offer it. Yeah, and one comment on Painstaking was that it seemed too vague, like they didn't really get what was going on with the story. So you have to be, I guess, what I would call abstract positive to enjoy this also. You have to enjoy this process of projecting something onto the film.
What the heck? Live at this moment, I will read you one of our juror comments on painstaking, um,
Uh-oh.
because because I think this particular juror nailed it. They wrote, "I feel this is a progression through stages of life. Are those the sands of time slipping through her fingers at the end? Beautifully produced. The performance was excellent. Wonderful music. Excellent coordination of VFX with the performer's motions."
Wow, thank you. Um,
That's from one of our and then most other people just said love it. But that person gave a nice
okay. Well, whoever that was, and thank you for that. This person will remain nameless, but thank you, whomever you are. To whomever you are, you that basically nails what we were going for with this. Yes.
yeah. Well, as you might guess, we've this was our 10th anniversary festival, and
Congratulations.
we've done a good job of curating our jurors too. We curate the films, and then obviously you want to curate jurors. Lord knows, we invite alumni to be a juror, and that an invitation will be extended to you for our next festival. But it is true that I
Okay.
confess that maybe I shouldn't say it out loud, but if I see a juror just like really be a little off of what the rest of us, I'll go, okay, maybe I don't invite that person back. Because, sometimes if people, anyway, I don't have to go into the details of my job. Just, yeah, we try to have jurors who seek originality and creativity and artistic expression, more than technical excellence, although in your case, it's technically excellent too. So,
Thanks. Yeah, there's more ways to do things wrong in filmmaking than there are to do them right. So Uh, yeah, having a nice concept. That was the thing that kept me going was that Patricia and Sadie and Chach, and then as we were in post-production, Brandon, everyone was doing so well with it. Um, you now feel as a director, and I have felt this on every film we've made so far, you feel a responsibility to not let these people down. And so at various times I've been either, like cleaning a house after the cast and crew stayed in it, or prepping a site, or editing a film, or doing rotoscoping. And I think, well, if this is what it takes to make a film, so be it.
Excellent, excellent. And it sounds like you're not slowing down. You're going to continue creating. It's sounds like you've really hit a nice groove with this.
Thanks. We have a couple of things in production in post now. One of them is called Under the Pear Tree, which is a young couple trying to conceive their first child in their new home gets help from a ghost. So that's a approximately 29-minute sort of featurette ghost story. And then the other project, our first foray into documentary is our dance film for 2025. Well, it'll come out in 2026. It's called Patchwork, and it is a love letter to all the artists whose lives are a patchwork of day job, side hustle, taking classes, teaching classes, rehearsals, performances, and probably two or three other things. And so one of the other dancers, Danae Carlson from Gravity, who danced alongside Sadie in that production, is our featured performer because her life just exemplifies this patchwork. The patchwork many artists have to put together to both enjoy the arts and pay the bills.
Oh, I understand that, and Lord knows we live in a culture where I mean, every once in a while I'll talk to someone from Europe who actually does get government support for the arts and and the life that people are, and I know it's not easy over there either, but and even some Canadians are like, yeah, I got a grant and this and that, and you just think of what an artist in our society has to do to to keep doing their art. I'm sounds like I'm already a fan of patchwork. 'Cause-
Great. Yeah. Would you like to be interviewed? Because we've got more interviews we intend to capture in January when we're back in Vermont just for a week to help care for Jennifer's elders. Um, yeah, it's discouraging. I hear stories, being on the board of Smuin Contemporary Ballet out of San Francisco, I hear stories from the dancers all the time. Like, I'm taking a class over here because why over there and not, in our own studio? Well, because it doesn't go together with my rehearsal schedule and then with the times when I'm teaching class over here at this, a college or other dance company or wherever. They're just all over the place. And in the summer, they have a break, which read file for unemployment, which many dance companies, they have a season, and in the summer you're furloughed basically. So yeah, it's just tough. Talk to any actor, similar, if anything, more tortuous patchwork than for dancers. So yeah, that's what's coming up for 2026. And considering trying to make our first feature film in 2026, for which I wrote a script several years ago.
Wonderful, wonderful. And all right, well, so it sounds like and you have we'll put clickable links in the show notes here of many websites and things. I know you have infinovation.film
Right.
is maybe your main website, and then you also have Infinovation Film on Instagram and of
Mhm.
course Vimeo and then you have a personal Instagram. So we'll put all those links in there so people can follow your work. And anything else you'd like to add?
No, it's been terrific talking to someone who you know, frankly takes the trouble, per your t-shirt moniker, who basically gives a SH exclamation mark T,
Yeah.
um, because some film festivals who will remain nameless just do not take that level of trouble. There are no Q&As or a session runs over. Um, Nobody even shows up to do a Q&A, let alone a good one. So basically to be given the time of day for a film that we put our hearts and souls into, can't say thank you enough, really.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that. I mean, I'll never understand the other ones. To me, the entire point of a film festival is for an audience and the filmmaker to share the experience and discuss it. I always joke that if and when one of our filmmakers gets that huge breakthrough, and then they turn to us and say, "Okay, I just made a ton of money. I want a tax write-off. I'm going to donate to your nonprofit." I'd be like, "Great. Now we can do a half-hour discussion of every like like but that's why I started the podcast, honestly, was that I started it the second year that we were running the two festivals a year because I we would have our 15-minute Q&As at this cute little theater in Sherman Oaks, and I would say to myself, this person has so much more to say about it, and I have so much more to ask about it. And I would even joke, the Q&As get ruined when I have to open it up to the audience because all of a sudden other people are asking questions. I'm like, oh, that's not as good a question as my next one. But you got to be.
Oh, but you can't curate that to over curate that.
No, no, you
The
can't. You can't
audience is
control that.
there.
So,
Well,
so yeah,
many of the people in the
obviously,
audience are other filmmakers, right? And
yeah,
so, yeah, I got some incisive questions actually
yeah.
from
That is.
the
I
filmmakers.
love when other filmmakers. Yeah, obviously that's very fertile ground for discussion. Which again, like I go back to this saying all the time, which is if you're just going to watch a film and not discuss it, you can stay home.
Right.
You know, this is an opportunity of human beings together around the campfire, sharing something, sharing a story, so
Yeah, I learned a lot from the Q&As from well, this year was our first time working with an intimacy coordinator, but I heard other stories at SOF, and really enjoy. And I haven't met a filmmaker at a festival, any festival yet, who didn't want to engage with me on some level of conversation. And as you said, the films at Sherman Oaks are very carefully curated, and the filmmakers that came with those films were thus curated. So great conversations there too.
yeah. And I'll share. I I did put my personal imprint on your screening because actually the final film in your block, that lawyered up one.
Yes,
That filmmaker, I don't know if it came out in their Q&A, but they had been with us the year previous, and that writer director had been she asked me out for coffee and we had coffee and stuff. And
great.
then she
Yeah.
found out about my love for dance and she's very involved in dance. So I actually intentionally put your dance film with her film to almost thank her because she took me to the USC School of Dance gala earlier this year, and
Really great fun.
I got to see members of the Joffrey Ballet perform all kinds of like beautiful. It was the 10th anniversary gala for the USC Gloria Kaufman School of Dance.
Well, please put us in touch. I remember speaking to her briefly after the Q&A or as the Q&A was winding down, but of course she was besieged by audience
Yeah,
members who
she
had
was
not gotten
that
their
was her world. That
questions
was her
in.
big LA premiere, and she's an LA resident. So yeah, she was probably overwhelmed with
Oh,
attention
I
after.
loved that film.
Wasn't that a great film?
Yes.
Yeah, it
Yes.
really was. That was her first time directing. She'd always just written and produced. And this time she said, okay, I'm going to finally direct one. And it came out great.
Excellent.
Well,
Yeah.
there you go. In this case, the careful curation was making sure that dance-oriented people were together.
Well, fun. Great. A good block is a little, a weird little art form it is all in its own, just to put together a good film block. Because again, I've had films in blocks where it was not a great experience.
Yeah, yeah, boy. I would never wanted that to happen at ours. All right, well, let me do
Great.
the wrap up, and then well, after this, I'll just let everyone who's still listening know. The podcast after this one will be John answering the Discover Indie Film 4 questions, which involve name 3 films you love, an underrated film, an overrated film, and a lesser known that people should seek out. So you should, if you're listening to this and the second one's already come out, you should listen to the podcast after this one because 2 episodes in a row will be John Schlag.
Great. Yeah, please do listen to the extras because I have a couple of bombs to drop in the notes about the favorite films.
Nice, wonderful. All right. Well, first I'll finish up by thanking you, John, for taking the time to talk to me.
Thank you. It's a great
And
pleasure.
and and I'll thank everyone for listening. Like I said, if you go to the show notes, however you're listening to this or however you're getting it, I believe there's show notes with that'll have clickable links for all of John's work. If you want to learn more about this podcast, go to discoverindiefilm.com, and on social media, it's always at DIF wins, DIF for Discover Indie Film. Very That was actually done with a poll of like the first 20 guests. I was like, okay, we got to change our hashtag, our handle. What do we do? And DIF wins one. So go figure. So you can learn about the podcast there. If you go to discoverindiefilm.org, that is the website for the nonprofit that runs the aforementioned Sherman Oaks Film Festival and its sister festival, which is Film Invasion Los Angeles. We hold Sherman Oaks Film Festival every December in Los Angeles, and we hold Film Invasion Los Angeles every June. So you can get to both websites and social medias, I believe, if you just go to discoverindiefilm.org, which is our nonprofit, because thankfully our country still allows nonprofits, charitable organizations that support the arts.
Well, for that.
I knocked our government a little bit. At least we do that. At least we do that. So discoverindiefilm.com for the podcast, discoverindiefilm.org for the festivals. And I will mention that actually quite soon after this releases, on January 16th and 17th, those 2 sister festivals get their cousin in South America, because Film Invasion Los Angeles, we worked out with a team based in Lima, Peru. We're doing Film Invasion Lima in Lima, Peru in January. Sadly, I won't be able to be there in person, but I'll be there in spirit, and hopefully next year I'll get to go to Film Invasion Lima. But it was a very wonderful thing that came together. So, heck, people can check it out online, I think. If actually, and by the way, Film Invasion Lima, to save it money, or to be smart about it, is just a tab on the Film Invasion Los Angeles website. So if you want to learn more about Film Invasion Lima, just go to filminvasionla.com. There's an FI Lima right at the top. So 3 festivals, go figure. All right. I think we're good. Thank you again, John.
And thank you. Great pleasure.
Yeah, and thank you everyone for listening.